Hi, everyone. Welcome to Meet the Healers. I'm Lori Crine, and today I'm so excited to have Liza Miron on the show. And Liza does Family Constellations, and we're going to learn everything about that she wants to share with us. So I've known Liza for a number of years. We both belong to the Natural Healers Network here in San Jose, South Bay area. And she's the leader of the organization right now, and she's doing a wonderful job. And so I thought it would be great to share what Liza does in her sessions and the background and what Family Constellations is. So I look forward to learning more about it myself, because there's a lot about it I don't even know. So I'm so glad to have you on the show today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. First of all, can you explain just like sort of your elevator speech of what Family Constellations is?
Yeah. So Family Constellations is basically a technique that we use to heal issues that we have in our life that do not belong to us, but actually belong to our ancestors. So we have a lot of issues that belong to our ancestors and we get blocked. They could be emotions, patterns, different beliefs, and we don't know that we have them and we're following them. So what we're doing in the Family Constellation session is that we're looking for these aspects that we're carrying for them to be able to heal them so that we can be more connected to life.
Wow, that sounds pretty powerful.
It is. Actually it is.
So how did you get started with doing this work?
So I started many years ago, and actually since I've been very young, even in my first teenage years, I was always looking for self-development tools, learning, trying to see how can I be better, help others. And I started like investigating about all the religions because I believe that they all bring us closer to love, closer to God, but in different ways. So I was trying to learn from all of them. I got very involved in Buddhism and in meditation. I then studied business administration. I started working in finance. I decided that numbers was not my thing, so I did a master's in human resources. So I started working in human resources in a company, and I learned about life coaching. So I loved it. I thought this is amazing. So I did a master in life coaching. And one of my teachers said, when you have a client, it doesn't matter how many things you tell the client, you help the client, the tools, whatever you use, at some points they're going to be blocked. And there's nothing you'll be able to do because they are blocked because of an ancestral trauma that they have. And for this, they have to do a family constellation. And I was like, oh, what? So then that's when I started learning about family constellations. And from the first moment that I learned, it was like, wow, this is amazing. It's a little bit like, when you get first love, that completely amazed way of looking at someone. Well, it was the same way. It was like everything made sense. Everything that I had been learning all these years came together in this one method. So, and from the beginning, I started like learning all I could, going to sessions, and it was just like, where has this been all my life?
Wow.
And I started learning more and more. And I even started doing the learning how to facilitate, not because I wanted to be a facilitator, but because I wanted to learn more, because this was just so amazing to me that, that's what I did. And eventually that was in Europe. I learned in Spain. And then I came to the US and I realized that it's not very big here. In the sessions with my teacher in Spain, I used to go to group constellation sessions on Tuesdays and on Thursdays. On a Tuesday, there would be 40 people. On a Wednesday, there would be 30 people every single week. It was part of my life to go to a weekly constellation session. So when I came here, I said, oh, I'm going to look for my weekly constellation group. And I could hardly find anything about constellations at all. And I was like, my goodness, what's this? And I was living in Santa Cruz at that point, and the closest one was in San Jose once a month. And I was like, well, how is this possible? So I eventually moved to San Jose, and I still could not find a lot of information and groups that were doing sessions. And I said, well, I have the training, so I'm going to start mine. And that was, I think, already 6 or 7, 6 years ago. Yeah.
Wow. Now, I'm wondering about, so people can get kind of maybe an idea of how this works. I want to start with asking you about, like, how does a session go? How do you work with people?
Okay, so there's 2 different kinds of sessions. because I do group sessions and I do the private session. So when I'm doing a group session, right now via Zoom, um, I used to do them in person. So there would be, let's say, a group of 10 people, and one of them wanted to do their own constellation. So let's say that's a she, and she would say, I want to work on having a life partner because I'm never able to find a loving, healthy relationship. So then she would choose of the participants, of the other people in the group that don't know her at all, somebody to represent her, the possibility of having a partner, maybe her mother, grandfather, whoever needs to be represented. And according to how they're relating to each other gives us information. So the participants are connecting through their intuition to the information. We know from quantum physics that information is everywhere, and we can connect to this information with our body intuition, intention. So this is what we're doing. So for example, if the client or the representative of the client is looking at the partner possibility, but the partner is lying down on the floor, it's just not available. So we need to find out why, what happened in the family that this is not available for this client. So I start asking questions, and we start seeing who needs to be represented. So maybe it's the grandmother that lost her husband when she had 5 children and she had a really difficult time. So it's like she gets like into this pattern of, it's better not to even have a partner because I have suffered so much. And this trauma is like what gets inherited. So then unconsciously, this client does not want to find a partner because she has the information from her grandmother that having a partner is traumatizing because she might lose the partner and come to a lot of suffering. And then this is what we're trying to find out. And when we realize then that there's an entanglement, which means like a connection, an energetic connection with this grandmother, then we honor and respect her. We honor and respect what she went through, the suffering. And we thank her for doing the best that she could, because we all are. You know, we're all doing the best that we can. And then we say, you know, thank you for giving this information, but my reality is different. And I want to have a partner, and I want to have a healthy relationship, and please give me a blessing so that this is possible. And now I choose to let go of any vow or promise that I did to honor you and follow you and continue with your pattern of suffering. I now choose to do it differently because I want this for myself. And this is how we work, letting go of those things that we're carrying unconsciously for our ancestors. So that's the way we do it in the group session. And when I do it privately, I do it more or less the same way. But the difference is that all these different representations, I do them myself. So it's a little bit more like a slow motion, because I go to one and then to other one and then to other one, and then I come back and see what are the movements, what's the information. I always go back to the client, and we're having conversations. We're talking about the ancestors, what the client knows. And even if the client is someone that has been adopted, it doesn't matter, the information is there. We can still tap to the information because the unconscious of the client has all that information. The part of finding out who is the ancestor that we're being entangled is just for the mind, because it's easier for us to understand, and we like to understand things, but it's not necessary. So this is how we do the sessions.
It sounds like there's some overlap between this and psychodrama.
Yes, it's similar. However, there is a difference, because when we're doing a representation, what we're doing is that we are letting go of our thoughts. The intention when we're doing all this healing is to be connected to source, to God, to something greater, to energy, universe, whatever something greater means, for the best possible healing of the client and of the family system of the client and of everybody that is present and their family systems. So what we're trying to do is to use our body like a channel of information. So in this psychodrama, you get a lot of, you know, thoughts of wanting to do this, and that I'm feeling that I'm angry and I'm going to be angrier and I want to scream, and then it gets like a very intense acting sometimes, and that's not what we want here. Here we want to be centered, we want to be receiving the information, so we're going to do subtle, very slow movements. to make sure that it's not our thoughts, it's not our, I'm feeling angry, so I'm going to be so angry. It's just like, I feel angry. It's like, okay, I notice that I'm starting to feel this anger and breathing more intensely. You know, maybe I'm going to like do this with my hand because I feel that this is what's coming up, but I'm not going to scream because that's my mind already saying, I want to scream, and we want to be centered. So it is similar, but a little bit more subtle, more centered.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. That you want to connect with that feeling, and sometimes when you do the yelling or whatever, then you kind of you'll lose that connection with it.
Yeah.
And so if we can stay kind of connected to what's going on inside of us, and pay attention to it and name it and be aware of it instead of just acting on it, that's kind of a shift from what we might do in our normal everyday life, which is just to react instead of respond, or really take it in. So that's very interesting. I'm curious about when you went through your training, and I assume that you had to go through this sort of yourself, for your own healing work, maybe, or that's something you were blocked in. And did you have to do that?
So yes, and that's part of the most important aspect of the training of family constellations. I think that if you want to do a training of family constellations of the information that you need to know, you can have 1 week full time of getting information, and you know everything there is to know. And you're not ready to do family constellations because for you to be able to facilitate, this is energetic work. And for example, if you're helping somebody that's struggling with their anger, when they come to you, you're not just giving information, because information they can find out in the internet. They are connecting to your energy, to what it feels to have anger in a healthy way in your energy. So it's like, for example, with your anger, you are in a way that you're able to have it in a healthy way with you, with your energy, and how you react with anger and how you integrate it in your life. So you're here. So when a client comes like this, then they tap into you and you help them balance. However, if a client comes like this and you're like this, you're gonna make it worse for the client.
Sure.
You're gonna stabilize the client. It's just gonna be too confusing. It's not gonna help at all. It's gonna make it worse. So if I wanna help somebody with their life, with a relationship, with honoring and respecting their parents, accepting their parents, with being able to connect to life, to gratefulness, I have to have that already in my life. I have to have cleared all the entanglements, and entanglements is this energetic bonds that we have from the family system. So I have to have cleared them all, so that when a client comes to me, they're not just learning how to do this in their lives, they're connected to energetically to how it feels like. They're learning, their system energetically is learning from my system. So my system has to have that learning, has to have that stability to help the client. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to help the client. So the training for me was hours and hours and hours and hours, 200 hours of doing constellations for others and for myself, to get this clear, to be able to help others, because otherwise I'm not able to help them. If I haven't been able to do that for me in my life, I cannot help somebody else, even though I know mentally the information. But it's not that they need, it's the energetic connection of how that feels. And by learning from my energetic stability, their energetic body learns, and that's what helps them the most. I have to say that in my experience, having done so much, the shift that I have seen in my life is that things flow. That things that used to bother me before don't bother me anymore. It's like maybe I had a relationship with somebody that was like, oh my goodness, this is always such a big conflict, so difficult, this is not going well. And the person hasn't changed. It's just that it doesn't bother me anymore. I've been able to see, for example, physical changes as well. When my daughter was born, I started having problems in my left arm here. And I did, I don't know how many therapy sessions, all kinds of different treatments, and it did not work. And then I did one constellation and it was gone. And I'm not saying the constellation was the only thing, because often, you know, if we have a physical problem, the constellation is going to remove the block of why I have that problem in my life. But if I have a muscle that's stuck, I still need the therapy. However, the therapy was not working because I had still that entanglement with the family system. But once I removed it, the therapy worked and the pain was gone.
Mm.
So there's so many things. There's another situation that I had when a relationship with an aunt completely shifted. And the curious thing about that one was that I didn't do a constellation about that. It was actually a constellation about somebody else in the family system that there was a conflict with. But because we're all connected, and she was connected to all this that was going on, by changing that dynamic, it changed the dynamic with her. And we started having now this beautiful and healthy relationship. And I was like, what happened? Why is this so much better and nicer? And then it was, you know, and this doesn't happen immediately, you know, it takes time, it takes shifts. So then, and it was like, oh yeah, it's like the constellation I did 6 months ago affected her as well. And this completely shifted in my life.
Wow.
It has helped me as well with problems, with conflicts, because we'll have problems, difficulties, and conflicts our whole lives. I mean, and that's how we learn, that's how we grow, that's how we expand. And how we are able to move through those situations is how we're able to become wiser and like expand our awareness. And the problem is that we often get stuck with those problems and we are rejecting them. We don't want them in our lives. We, of course, who wants problems? But what we learn through this process is that they're there for a reason. And once we understand why they're there, and we say thank you because they're helping us to connect us with life, and then we're able to, you know, flow easier in life. And that has happened with me. I mean, I have problems, I have difficulties, I have challenges, just like every single human in this world. However, I don't get stuck anymore. I don't get paralyzed. I don't get in this panic situation and like, what's going to happen? You know, I just flow with it, and things shift and move. So
Right.
it's this whole like well-being that I have come to appreciate it, how it has changed my life. And then it changes the ones that are connected with me. You know, it's like now my family connects with me, and I bring them to a more peaceful place because I'm there. So it's this whole, I've had so many specific examples, but it's this whole well-being that I really appreciate.
I totally, you know, I totally get that around problems and how they are really a place for us to learn about ourselves and how to and to grow. I was going to ask if you're offering classes or workshops, or are you just doing client appointments, and how do people get in touch with you?
So I have, I'm doing clients, and I'm also doing the group family constellation session. I'm doing it once a month, now via Zoom, because that's what it's available. And I also have workshops that I do about different topics. For example, sometimes it's about health or relationships, and there tend to be 2-hour sessions, and all my information, I put it in my website. I also put it in Facebook, in my groups, in my pages, and I put it in Meetup. But the best place is my website, because I have there the list of all the events together, so it's easier to see it all together. So my website is coachingandconstellations.com. And there's a tab of events, and that's where you can find all the information that I have about the events.
Okay, great. Awesome. Is there anything else that you want to share with people before we say goodbye?
So just one last thing, because I just think it's so important, and I want to share this because it's so healing. Part of the work that we do here is work with acceptance, understanding that everybody's doing the best that they can, and accepting of others, especially of our parents, because they gave us our life, and there's no thing more precious to us than life itself. So when we reject our parents, it's like we are rejecting life, and then life is not going to give back to us. It's not going to give back with abundance, with health, with love, with success, with beauty. And we often reject our parents because we did not like what they gave us, because we were hurt by them, because they left us. because for many reasons, and of course it's normal to feel hurt when they hurt us, and we're not rejecting that hurt. Here we're working with accepting everything, and we're letting them keep the responsibility of their hurt, because they were the adults if they hurt us as children, and it's their responsibility. But we're going to understand that they were doing the best that they could with the entanglements that they had from the family system, with the traumas that they had in their lives. If a parent is not able to love a child, it's not because they don't want to, but because they were not loved as children and they do not know how. So the biggest work that we do here in Family Constellations is honoring, respecting, and accepting our parents, accepting what they gave us, and say thank you with gratefulness and love, even if it was only our lives. And this is what connects us the most with life. So I want to share this, because if we just can start changing that shift of rejecting them, of criticizing them, of judging them, but saying, you know, I know you did the best that you could. If we were like having this presence in their lives, looking at how was their lives when they were born, looking at the entanglements, the challenges, the difficulties, what they were learning from their parents, siblings, friends, colleagues, the culture, we would understand so much, but we can't. But we know that is there. So let's stop thinking that they should be one way or another, judging and criticizing everything they have done, just knowing that they did or they are doing the best that they can, and to say thank you. And it's okay to have distance if they're hurting us in one way or another, but with honor and respect.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
that's what I wanted to share, because it's so important, it's so powerful, and it's part of the work that we do, and what shifts our life more with this being able to connect to life and then get and appreciate what life can give to us.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for sharing. That's interesting. One of the most important things I've learned also through my journey of healing work has been that about my parents. And if everyone on the planet could learn about what you just said and heal those wounds before they have kids, so that when they have children, they can instead of kind of repeating the pattern, they can sort of start fresh and are able to, because it just gets passed down,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And it's one of the biggest issues in our society, I believe, is what you just said, is that people don't know how to raise their children, some because the trauma that they had when they were kids, because their parents had trauma, and it just keeps going.
Thank you for providing this space and for doing this, because I really believe that that helps. That this helps so much, and this and so many other things. So this interviews that you're doing are so helpful to everyone. So thank you as well for doing this.
Well, you're welcome. It's something I've tried so many different things over the past few years for my own healing work, and I just learned that I connected with some things and some things I didn't. But everything I did, I learned something and I healed something, and I just kept trying. And that's why I'm doing these, because I want people to know that there's a lot of different tools out there, and they if they're interested in trying them out, then here's some information about a lot of different ones, and they can kind of pick and choose. So yeah, I really appreciate all of you and all the other people who are doing these kinds of work. So thank you for being here today. And so people can find you on
coachingandconstellations.com.
Got it. Great. Okay. And I'll put that in the show notes. And so if you want to learn more, you can go to Liza's website, or you can go to my website, and you'll find this interview there, and also on my YouTube channel, Meet the Healers. So thanks for joining us today. And thank you, Liza. And we'll see you next time on Meet the Healers.
Thank you, Lori. Bye.
Bye.